Where to get your car serviced? Man, that is often a very frustrating thing to go through. And, there's a big decision on whether or not you want to service it yourself, take it somewhere else to get it serviced, or have things repaired. Anywhere from getting tires changed to diagnosing problems with the motor to having body work done. It's all a process, and it's often not real fun when you get to the end of the process. So what I want to do here is share a little bit of my experience with you and make a couple suggestions that might help you through that process, and hopefully you won't have too much of a headache getting things repaired or fixed on your car or getting service done. Because of a few of my experiences and my ability and desire to do things myself, I do a lot of my own maintenance, but there's some things that I don't have time to do, or I simply don't have the tools or equipment to do, so I do have to hire those things out. When you drive an older car like I do, things come up, monthly. There's something new that needs to be done to the car. It's a lot cheaper than paying car payments, but there's still a lot of things that have to be maintained and upkept, even things as simple as oil changes. Now, recently I had the need to make a couple of road trips. One of them was I wanted my wife to be able to spend some time with my daughter for Mother's Day, and another one we had kind of a family tragedy. So I drove about 8,000 miles. Before I took that road trip, I had a need to get tires on my car. So I shopped around for tires and settled in at a place, national chain that does tires. They had the kind I wanted and the brand I wanted, so things was looking up. If you've been watching my videos, you know I'm very capable of doing many things, and I'm also capable of mounting tires, but I don't have the equipment, and I had a little bit of money to get tires, so I went to a local tire place that is a national chain, and I told them I wanted these specific tires. Oftentimes when you're in there to get tires done, if you are fortunate like me to have 5 full-size tires, 4 on the car and a spare, they'll ask you which tire you want to use as a spare. So I had a somewhat expensive tire that had a lot of tread on it, a lot of tread left on it, that I wanted to use as a spare, and I was just going to purchase 4 new tires to be mounted on the car. So I left them with those instructions. I went away, and they were going to have the car ready for me in 3 or 4 hours. Well, when I dropped my car off, my order was taken by a very competent order taker named Melissa. Man, very bright young lady, communicated clearly, took down my details, and basically I told them that I wanted the spare in the back of the car, which had a damaged tire on it that was flat. I wanted that tire replaced, and 3 others on the vehicle, and I wanted my right rear put in the back of my car as a spare. Well, about 30, 40 minutes later, I get a call from the shop. They told me that my oil was low, and they offered to do an oil change since my car was in there having the tires replaced. Well, I thought that I had recently changed the oil like a month or 2 ahead of that time, and maybe it only put like 1,500 miles on the car. They said it was on the rack, and on the oil filter, clear view was the date and the mileage of the last oil change. So I declined the oil change, and they probably wouldn't have used the filter in the oil that I use anyway. So I told them, look, please replace the tires as requested, put the car down, get it back to me. I don't want any other service that you guys have to offer. Of course, they have you sign a disclaimer that the car belongs to you and that you're giving them the authority to work on it. But all this other stuff, to me, was not necessary. I need tires put on the car. I needed my car back. I didn't need anything else that they had to offer. Well, an hour and a half after that, I received another call from the shop. My thought was, great, my car is ready to pick up. Well, no, that wasn't the point. They had gone into my air filter system, and they said that they thought my air filter was dirty and they needed to replace it and offered to replace it for me. I strongly urged them to focus on the tires, get that job done, give me my car back, and I did not want any other servicing or repairs that they had to offer. Now, I had a lifetime not a man, but a K&N filter in there, which are cleanable filters. They're supposed to last 1,000,000 miles. I guess they were going to take that filter out, which only had about 40, 50,000 miles on it, throw it out or keep it, and sell me a paper filter for $25 or something like that. Well, I wasn't interested in that. They started aggravating me with the callbacks on offering to do other things for me. Look, change the tires, give me my car back. So they offered to add a little oil since the oil was low. I told them if they wanted to add oil, I had some in the back of my car. They can top it off with that, but don't add any of their oil. Well, a couple hours later, they called me, told me my car was ready. The car had been there 4 or 5 hours. I was late for an appointment, which I missed to do a job. So now I'm a little frustrated. I'm out of time. I'm still trying to make it to the job. Long story short, I didn't make it to the job. Got my car back, went to drive off, and I noticed that the spare tire that I had designated for them to use as a spare was gone. It was no longer there, and they had taken the tire that was bad and inside the back of my car and actually mounted that, aired that tire up and left it in my car. So I had to go back inside, talk to the order taker to try to get this straightened out. Told them what kind of tire I had, went out in their shop looking for it, could not find my good tire that I wanted put on as a spare. Then I had to show them that the one that they left for me as a spare was damaged. That's why I told them to mount a new tire on that location. Long story short, I left there with a different tire on the car that was not the spare that I wanted. But hey, I didn't have another half an hour to spend there while they looked for the proper tire to mount on there, and I left. Well, I missed the one appointment, so I didn't get a chance to, make a few dollars to help myself on my travels. So I went and took care of another appointment. While I was at my later appointment, I decided to check under the hood to see if they had topped the oil off and if there was any other issues that I needed to be concerned with. First thing I did, I opened up the hood and I checked my air filter to make sure that I still had my K&N air filter. Well, when I went to open the box, I noticed that there was a clip or two on the air filter box that was still loose. So they opened up my air filter box and didn't secure it back. Well, that's just the start of it. When I opened up the air filter box, the air filter was in there, but it was not in there properly. It was jammed down in the box where dirty, unfiltered air could get around it. So that frustrated me. Another thing that frustrated me about this is that these plugs that's connected to the air filter box, to my mass airflow sensor, those wires are sensitive. So if you open this box and you don't unplug that and you lift the box up and you stress those wires, you could damage the wires to my mass airflow sensor. Wasn't happy with that. So I got the air filter seated, got the box closed up, got all the clips back in. I didn't seem to have any problems with my wires, so that was that. Well, I went on ahead and checked my oil. My oil's still a quart low. So although they called me and offered to add oil, and I told them where the oil was, they didn't bother adding it. I guess it's good that they checked it, but they didn't top it off like they offered. So if they didn't get the oil change job, they really didn't care if it was low on oil or not. So I got the oil out of the back of the car and topped it off. Well, like I said, the oil filter was actually labeled with the last oil change. I went and checked the documentation on the oil filter, and it turns out that the oil was changed about 6,000 miles ago, and the oil filter was dated 7 months ago. Had they had told me that the oil change was that long ago, I may have had them do it or just did it myself, but they didn't even bother to tell me about the documentation on the filter. A little bit frustrating. Well, because I have low profile tires and the type of wheels I have, a lot of your normal weights that is clipped on the outside of the wheel will allow leakage, air leakage, so they're supposed to use these special weights. I told them that I needed those type of weights. They did use those weights. However, on a couple of the wheels, when they took the old weights off, they actually left the film of the tape on the wheel, which was frustrating. They didn't clean the old tape off. So, with just dropping my car off to have the tires replaced, they messed up my air filter, didn't top off my oil, they called me a few times, they left tape residue on, and they lost my spare tire. And then on one of the tires, they put a different size valve stem on. So they charged me for 4 valve stems. My tires have 2 different size valve stems on there. So there was a little frustration there. I quickly went back to the service center and let them know of my concerns and dissatisfaction with the service. Now, I know they didn't pick me to pick on. So, my assumption is that everybody that takes their vehicle in there for service gets this same runaround and poor service. Another example of some frustrating service that I encountered was I had a car that had body damage on it, so I took the car in to a reputable shop that fixed Mercedes and Lexuses and all these things. I took my car there to have them fix the body damage on it. Well, I made a couple of mistakes there that I believe resulted in me getting poor service from them. When I took the car in, I didn't really need the car. I had really too many at home at the time. So I told them to take their time. They were giving me a great price. Get around to it. When you get done, call, let me know, I'll come get it. Well, somehow that got interpreted into I maybe didn't care what type of job they did with my older vehicle. When I got the vehicle back, it had hail damage that happened while it was on their lot. It had paint overspray from only God knows how many other vehicles. The windows weren't clean, paint overspray on them. My hood liner inside was damaged, and there was just a few other things that wasn't right. Like I had road paint splatter on the side of the car. So somebody had took the car and run a couple errands in it and ran over some wet paint, got that paint splattered up on the car. So here it was, I had my car at a very good reputable body shop and ended up getting back poor quality. And when I picked up the car, they had basically given me the attitude that this was an old car and maybe I didn't really care about the quality of the work that was done on it. Well, I had them straighten out a few things they really weren't interested in straightening out correctly, so I did those things myself. And when I visited the shop over something else later on and they seen how good the car looked, they were really, kind of surprised and kind of said, wow, we didn't know that car, looked that good and was in that kind of shape. So there's a couple things I learned about taking your car in for service that I want to go ahead and share with you. Number one, if you just need something like an oil change and you take your car to an oil change station, understand that they will likely only change the oil with the oil brand that they use, the type of filter they use, and they will not notify you of other things that may be pending needing to be done to the car. So a quick oil change place is just that. And if you take your car to a repair center to have the oil changed, if there's something else that needs to be done to the car, they will often let you know because they'll check other things while they're there. If you have worn suspension parts, if you have oil leaks or a coolant leak, they'll often let you know, hey, you got this coolant leak, this needs to be taken care of. Now, you don't want to take your car to a place that kind of alarms and scares you. You'd rather find a place, preferably recommended by a family or friend, that will, actually care about the service that they're giving and want to see you as a repeat customer other than, I'm going to get you for everything I can this one time. So find a place that does full service and allow them to let you know of things that need to be done so you can schedule to have those things done in the future. A lot of things that's wrong with the car, you can drive with them and you don't have to get them done then, but you can schedule to have them done next month, the month after, 2 months later, things like that. So, understand the difference between taking your car to an oil change place that will only change your oil, not care about anything else, and a place that does a lot of maintenance and servicing that will inform you about other things that need to be done, but won't be an alarmist and try to scare you into getting repairs done. So try to find a place recommended by friends or family, and when you take your car there, let them know that you've been recommended by this friend or family. And when you take your car there, just be courteous, and they'll normally be courteous to you. Another thing that you want to avoid doing, as you see, my car here is pretty dirty. I just got back from a road trip. Try not to take your car in to get it serviced or repaired when it's filthy dirty. Get it cleaned up as best you can when you take it in. That way, if you have an older car, they won't think that you don't care about the car and the condition that it's in. If the car is cleaned up and looks good, even when it's older, they'll know that you have a level of care to your car, and you're not just going to accept it back after they've butchered it up. So clean your car. It'll send them the message that you care about the work that they're performing. Now, if you have a car that a lot of shops don't want to work on, you don't have to use a dealer. You can find an independent shop that specializes in Volvos or Subarus or BMWs or Jaguars or whatever kind of car you have. You want to try to use a shop that understands the quirks that your car has so they can properly recommend and service and maintain their car for you. So, one of my important tips is don't leave your vehicle at a service place for an extended period of time. Take your car there when you're ready to have the work done. Pick it up as soon as you can and pay for the service. If you leave it there a long time, it'll probably get damaged or something else will happen that you'll be unhappy with. Another tip I have is do not use comparison shopping, negotiating as a tool to try to negotiate a lower price for repairs or service. These mechanics work hard. These service centers have a lot of overhead. If you start trying to beat them up, saying that you can get a better price somewhere else down the road, even if they do lower their prices, they will probably be unhappy with servicing your vehicle and will probably do a poor job completing that service. So if you're in a situation where the service seems excessive or extensive and you can't really afford it, pick your car up and get it back home or somewhere that it'll be safe, or let them know you can't afford that. Is there another way that you can get the job done that's maybe not as expensive? They may have used parts or recommend used parts to get that price down some, but don't try to use comparison shopping as a tool to negotiate a lower price for your service. Now, if you have a situation where you think work wasn't done properly, or the car is now not running right, making different noises or things like that, you need to address those issues immediately, same day or next day. You don't need to drive 100, 200, 600 miles and then try to go back and have them get something right that they may have damaged. Because older cars and newer cars, things break on them every day. Other people tinker on them. And if you let days and weeks go by between getting problems addressed that they possibly caused, they're not going to be willing or open to fix those things. So anytime I have an issue with some work that was done, I go back the next day at the latest to try to get those issues addressed and put those people on notice. And I've had good success with having refunds given to me or have that shop pay for some damage that they did, a few days down the road. On several occasions, I've gotten checks from service places that broke something or did something wrong with my cars. It's no fun, but why should I pay for a set of rotors when your mechanic destroyed them when they just was rotating tires? So you got to make sure that people do things right, and that if there's a problem, you go back and deal with it immediately. It takes time. It's a hassle. It's frustrating, but you know, it's something that you have to do if somebody messes something up. Last but not least, always check behind whatever work is done. Whenever you go pick up a car, sometimes those mechanics are ready to get to the next job. They don't want to spend 10, 15 minutes rubbing on your car when you come to pick it up. They want you to get paid for the work and get out of their way. So you have to take it upon yourself that if they did work under your motor, you open up your hood. You make sure your oil cap is on, your oil dipstick is in, your coolant reservoir cap is on. One time I had my sister drive 900 miles to my house on a 2,000-mile road trip. I told her, let me check your fluids. She told me that they had already been checked. Well, I checked anyway. When I opened the hood, the coolant reservoir cap was off and the oil was overfilled. You know, those are a couple things that the mechanic that she had check it out just overlooked. And those things can cost you money, especially when you get on the road. I never recommend that people get work done on their car right before they get on the road. Always do that a week in advance. Drive the car for a week and then get on the road. So you have to remember, mechanics are human. They make mistakes. They have family issues that may distract them. They have rush issues where they're trying to get to another job. They have distractions. So all in all, you want to check behind any mechanic or anybody that does any servicing, repair, or work on your car. So my recommendation is find a shop that does a lot of servicing. Allow them to share with you things that need to be redone, need to be done to the car in the near future, and always check behind their work. So familiarize yourself with your car and always check behind their work, because you don't want to leave your fate in their hands, unfortunately. To me, long story short, you need to be familiar with your car. There's no perfect service center, and you want to always check behind the work that anybody else does on your car and be familiar with how things look. So probe around on your car, learn where things is, learn where things are supposed to look like, so that when somebody does servicing to it, you can look behind them and tell if something's loose, missing, or not attached properly. I do that all the time, and so do my daughter. Somebody puts a battery in her car, she looks at how the battery's connected. She looks and makes sure the clip is installed properly to secure the battery in the tray. Usually it's not, so she has to point that out to him, point this out to him, and you know, they're a little bit surprised that she checks behind them. But anytime you have somebody work on your car, you need to understand how to check behind them. Well, I wish you the best success with keeping your car serviced, maintained, and on the road. Hope you get many miles on them, and there may be a couple of links in the about notes in this video that talks about different servicing and routine maintenance on a car. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can also subscribe to my channel so that you can get notification of future videos that I post. Visit my channel. I have all types of do-it-yourself videos there. You can leave questions here, and I'll try to respond to them as quick as possible. You can also visit my website at robertspinner.com. Thanks again for watching.